Hey everybody, want to do another touch base here. Feels like in these crazy times we're in, the more we can communicate with each other, the better. We want to hear from you a lot, and we want to be communicating with you as well. This is definitely a super crazy time. There's some practical things we'd love to cover with you here, but want to just first acknowledge that this is unlike anything we've ever seen, in our generation, really in our lifetime here. And so it's totally appropriate, I think, to be overwhelmed a little bit, to be disoriented, to be trying to understand what's going on. There's not just the health risks, which is serious and scary, but it's just how fast it's spreading. There's the reality we still don't have enough test kits here to even have a full sense of the scope of it. So there's definitely a sense of unease at best, panic even in some circles. And so I think for people of faith, this is a time where we have to just be really thoughtful to continue to check in with God and to deepen our own faith within this time. And so this past Sunday, we were in this room. It was doing all the social distancing measures, and we had a really powerful time in here. But as you know, CDC basically is now asking groups, really no group settings of any kind. They don't even want 10 or more together. And so we're gonna have to really make this shift now where we're going from enjoying the really immense gifts that come with being together in person, and we're gonna have to figure out how to connect with each other in other kinds of ways. And so I want to talk through some of the practicals of that. I want to talk about some of the faith pieces of that. So let's start big picture. This past Sunday, the last time we were able to be together, and many of you saw us on Facebook Live or on YouTube, which that's still there if you want to kind of go back and worship with us or hear that word. We looked at the really important passage where the storm comes and hits the boat where the disciples are, and Jesus is asleep inside the stern, which for the disciples, that causes them to wonder if God even cares during times of crisis. But for Jesus, he was trying to show that when you are connected to the majesty, the sovereignty, the power of God, that even in the midst of a storm, your heart can be totally at rest. You can be still. And that's the kind of faith we need right now. Faith is not something that you summon up. It's not really about you. Faith is about being connected to God through Jesus Christ. And in these times, we need faith. We need to deepen and grow in our faith. And while none of us would ask for an unstable and chaotic time like that we're in right now, it is one of the gifts that can happen, is that it pushes away some of the things that really are false foundations that we build our life upon, and really demonstrates in a way that can no longer be argued with the necessity of being absolutely dependent on God. So I do want to share one more passage before we go into some of the practicals. I was reflecting on Hebrews 11 this morning, which, if you're unfamiliar with that passage, many would consider this to be the most famous passage on faith in the Bible. And Hebrews 11 just goes through one person after another, male and females, that by faith were able to overcome tremendous odds in their life. By faith were able to step into significant moments that God put before them. By faith were able to really overcome really tremendous obstacles and tremendous social unrests. And I was thinking at the very end of it, the very end of the passage doesn't get talked about as much. There's a lot of the famous stories of Moses or Rahab or Abraham, some of these famous faith stories. But it's the ones that are mentioned at the end, and I don't want to be grim here. These are actually pretty intense things, and it's really nothing like what we're facing. But just to demonstrate what is possible when people are connected to God by faith, the writer of Hebrews, after telling all these stories, Rahab, the last one, he says, "What more shall I say? I don't have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, the prophets." Those are some big names he doesn't have time to get to. "Who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised." Now listen to some of these. "Who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword." Listen to this phrase, "whose weakness was turned to strength." Doesn't that feel like something we need, a word we need? I think some of us are feeling very weak in this time. "Whose weakness was turned to strength." "Who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies." "Women received back their dead, raised to life again." There are others, and this is where it gets grim, but it shows how powerful faith is. "Others who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers, flogging, chains, imprisonment. There were people put to death by stoning, sawed in two, killed by the sword. They were destitute, persecuted, mistreated." The writer says that the world was not worthy of them. I'm not suggesting that that's what we're facing in this time, but I think it's important to remember. In yesterday's email, I talked about this word immutability. It's a big theological word that describes just this sense that who God is never changing. The sovereignty of God, the majesty of God, it's true in every generation. It's true at every time. It's true in times of rest, and it's true in times of unrest. And so one of the things that's important about faith is remembering that because we're human beings who are finite, we're going to get tossed around when the waves come. And so the world doesn't feel like it's unchanging. It very much, depending on what's happening, changes. But it's very possible that even as the waves are coming, and the storms are coming, that we can stay connected to God, the stability of who God is, the immutability of who God is. Faith allows us to do that. And so I think this is a season where we need to learn faith in a way that for some of us, we've never had to learn it before. And that's the opportunity, I think, that comes through this season. So with that being said, there's just some practical things that we want to do to kind of keep moving towards each other. Kind of as alluded to, but to say even more directly, we're not going to be meeting in person during this next stretch. It's just too risky for somebody who could have the virus and not know it. So even if we're not worried about catching it, there's an immense risk of passing it on to somebody else. The risk is just too great right now. We need to flatten the curve, as they say, and really take this social distancing and self-quarantining it as seriously as we can, which I realize that's super hard. Depression, loneliness, isolation, these are already real daily threats even in normal life. So when you can no longer be with people in person the way you want and need to be, when you can't hug and handshake the way that's just normal and meaningful for you, when you can't go to your favorite restaurants or coffee shops, this is hard. No question. And in fact, most people I'm talking to at best are disoriented. This is just a really confusing time. At worst, there's a lot of discouragement, disillusionment, even depression. And so we need to be really mindful of that. So with that being said, we have got to find ways to stay connected, more connected really in a lot of ways than ever. So first off, and I'm going to admit, I'm oftentimes that kind of grumpy old guy who talks about social media and how we're losing the personal touch. And I think that there can be a risk of that, but this is what we need social media right now more badly than we've ever needed it. It's an opportunity for us to stay connected during this season. And so we're like all in now on Instagram and Facebook. We are going to be regularly reaching out, posting things. I'll be involved, staff elder, Shireen's putting all of her time into this. And so if you're not already following us on Facebook and Instagram, we'd love to do that. We'll follow you back. We'll try to keep people connected in that manner. But as much as we can interact through that venue, that'll be great. Secondly, we're happy about this. We've spent 1.5 years developing a social media framework for connecting to each other within River City, kind of almost old school church directory meets new school kind of Facebook type of setup. It's called Church Community Builder. And so there's no way we could roll it out if we were just starting now, but we're 1.5 years in. In fact, this is one of those just like kind of funny God stories. We're ready to roll this thing out, but it needs full participation to work. And so the question in the planning teams has been, how do you get River City people to take seriously getting on this CCB platform? Of course, nobody would have prayed for the virus for that answer, but it really does give us an opportunity to go all in on this software. So I realize I'm one of these people when there's a new technology that you don't know and you're unfamiliar with, it can be a big step to jump on and get part of that. But if we could get everybody to participate in that, there's really some pretty significant ways that we can stay connected to each other through that. So just to keep this simple, if you'll just email Shireen, we want your email in the database, and then this will get us connected to CCB so you can get on this. So it's Shireen Ali, email just first letter, last name, S-A-L-I at rivercitychicago.com. S-A-L-I at rivercitychicago.com. If you can reach out via email so that we've got your email address, we can make sure communications are going out. So that's going to be a really great opportunity. We've kind of agreed, at least we're going to try for this next week, as staff and elders do a daily devotional via video. And if that feels helpful and supportive, we'll continue to do that. But it's just us trying to find ways to be connected to you on a daily basis. We are going to continue with Bible study, but we're going to go straight full-fledged virtual on this now. So we're going to try Google Hangouts for Wednesday night Bible studies. We can have up to 50 people on that. So I don't know we'll get that high, but that would be fun if we had a bunch of us together. And so I'm going to kind of flip-flop what we were doing. We were doing Lent studies on Sundays, and then following up with that Bible study. We're going to do the Lent studies on Wednesday night. So each Wednesday night, starting tomorrow night, if you're watching this today, but starting Wednesday night, we'll do a Bible study on a different passage around Lent, and I'll present and do a Bible study on it, and then we'll have a little bit of time of interaction via comments and stuff like that. So we'd love it if you could join us via Bible study Wednesday nights. When you email us, if you're interested in it, let us know. We'll get you the specific tech details and how to connect via Google Hangouts. It's not real difficult. And so those are some of the ways that we can really keep finding ways to stay invested in each other. I know it seems so old school, but talking on the phone is probably one of the best things we can be doing in this era, right? That's not exactly the same as being person to person, but it's pretty close, and certainly a whole different domain than social media. So, people you already know, if you can check in on them, set times up to call. I'm going to do some office hours here where I'm just available for anybody who wants to just chat. So that's another way. And then final request would be, the whole reason that churches exist is to help people grow spiritually, to help support them emotionally, to help support them with their economic needs. The whole tithing system in the Old Testament was based on that, to support those who are supporting those who are in need in the community. And so we're in a little bit of a weird time right now in that giving is going to go down because we're not able to be together in person. That's where a lot of people tend to give, but the needs are actually gone way up during this time. We're scrambling in a good way, but we're scrambling to get those who are vulnerable right now in our community the supplies, the resources that they need. We're able to just do a bunch of fresh food baskets yesterday and getting that to folks, and just a lot of different kind of concrete things like that. So for those of you who faithfully do give to us, please, if you would continue that. If you're not already doing electronically, if you could do that. For those of you who maybe have not been giving consistently, that's why we're here, is to support people. So there's a link on our website on rivercitychicago.com that gives a couple of different giving options, really simple ways. So if you can continue to support financially, that'd be great as well. So final word, I was thinking about that word discouragement. That's a word I've heard a lot of people say this week as I've talked to them. I'm feeling discouraged, which I totally get. The word discourage actually literally means to have the courage taken out of you. And when we think about faith gives us courage, not because we're inherently courageous people, but because we follow a God who's sovereign over all. As we looked at last Sunday, we follow the one who's the Lord over the storm. We follow the one who is never changing, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So this stuff never happens instantaneously, but there's this vision. This is how you move from discouragement to encouragement, to being filled with courage, is you look to the God that is the sure foundation that we can rest on, even in times like this, where the waves feel really big. So know that we love you. We are super available. If there's anything we can do to support you during this time, any way you reach out, social media, text, phone, email, we will get back to you. We want to be with you. We know this is a crazy time, but we're going to grow together in it. We're going to figure out how to grow in faith together. All right. Love you all. Let's stay in touch.